Oh, alright. Hello, everybody. In case you did not hear my introduction, I'm Patrick. I go on a lot of many names, cold guys in this pot. And a couple thoughts I have. So, morality. There's a big fancy definition of it. However, it essentially boils down to good and evil, or right and wrong, or however you want to go ahead and pose it. Nice, this 15-second wait for Alright, good. Good things are typically rewarded, whether it be monetarily, emotionally, or just supportive by parents or other figures. Essentially, you do good things happen to you, and you don't get hurt. Everyone celebrates and moves in the end. However, there's bad things out there, things that are wrong, things that are bad, and get punished for, whether it be monetarily, emotionally, or socially in some cases. But usually, bad things you don't want to go ahead and do, the good things you want to go ahead and take witness of. However, in the real world, it's never good and evil. There's a whole lot of gray out there. It makes things ever so much complicated than living life and actually making decisions in certain cases. So, when it comes to gaming, we essentially go with a decision. Any decision in gaming essentially goes with talk it out or fight it out. Now, usually in games, it's pretty obvious to know which is right, which is wrong. However, when the gamer actually comes to a certain decision like this, typically they're going to go with the more entertaining option of the two, and usually it's what. Hence, why a lot of people that I know tend to be evil bastards in games when they're actually really nice in real life. Kind of get that frustration out there. So one recent example is Catherine, recent game 360 and PS3. Game that allows you to go ahead and do morality choices where you text your girlfriend and the new lover that comes through at a bar one night. And depending on the reaction that you have with the text message with your girlfriends, different things happen. Now, a lot of people say there's a good side and a bad side. However, I'm not going to go ahead and spoil you the big twist at the end of it. So play the game if you actually want to know what the scale is of that game. So ultimately, if we're coming to creating games, we have a decision. Who decides whether or not we're being good or evil pricks? Ultimately, it goes down to the creator of the game to go ahead and do it by tricking the player to think that they actually have control. Code 4 is a great example of this. If you're familiar with that one scene with the beggar where he asks you for change, you can either give him change or ignore it. In either case, your Jedi Master basically tells you you're doing the wrong thing no matter what you choose, so regardless of that. So, simple scenario using that code for backdrop. You're a guy, and a little girl comes up to you crying, saying, "Oh, I need some help, big sir, character of a video game. There's this evil bully man that is very intimidating, who stole my locket, doesn't want to give it back to me. As the hero of the generic game, I pick up on the top of my head, you should please go ahead and retrieve the locket for me." So obviously, as the hero, you have really no choice but to go ahead and confront the bully, to just rush him to go ahead and get the locket. But because it's the generic bully, he's going to say, "Well, you're going to fight over it." So there's the player decision, right? You're going to fight over this locket that the little girl wants back, or you're going to go ahead and simply talk it out and try to reason with them. Now, if you want to just have a good scenario out of it, if we want to go ahead and fight, we can obviously fight and get the locket back. Yay, everyone's happy at the end of the day. Or if you chose to go ahead and talk, instead of fighting, a teacher could come up and say, "Hey, I heard the conversation, that's not the bully, give her a locket back." If we want to go evil, it's more fun because maybe that locket wasn't hers to begin with. Maybe it was his locket that she really wanted and didn't want to go ahead and confront him about it. Or if you just want to talk about it, he could just spend a locket down and stop, put on it and break it. However, the ultimate goal is to get the diverging path of, I want to have a decision, I want to have meaning on the decision. So how can I go ahead and execute that decision properly by allowing the player to go ahead and execute it? So it's the dilemma that I have here, and to make a very long argument short, is basically all actions cannot be taken back, and also must push the story in a direction. You have to have progress without coming back and fixing your mistake. Now the first part is simple, we autosave. Anytime you go ahead and do a decision in the game, whether it be right or wrong, the game has to save. Essentially, I can't go, "Oh, I want to be the good guy, so I'm going to reset the game, go back, choose the other decision, so I get the good ending." No. If you're going morality, you have to stick with it. However, all stories essentially come down to a choose your own adventure, where no matter what decision that you make, it somehow affects the story in one direction or another. Now, you can cheat by having both ends go and loop around again, at a common point. However, that's really not interesting, and that can be a longer discussion how to do it and how to go execute it. But I got 5 minutes. My time's up. Thank you for listening in.
So, rating system continued, all right? And in '93, Sega introduced their own little rating system, which was GA, which is basically E for everyone, MA13, which was T, and MA17, which was Mature. Now, these ratings only appeared on the Sega titles, Sega CD, 32X, and all that. Now, in the beginning of the system, there was KA, EC, ET, and AO. In 2004, they introduced the E10, and in '97, they introduced E for everyone. So descriptors are part of the SRB as well. So on the front you have the rating itself, on the back you have the descriptor. The descriptor basically explains what content is in the game and why it's given that rating. And you can see these are two different descriptors. The one on the right was an American one, and the other one was a French Canadian. Alright? So, different ratings. RP is a title that is not rated yet, which means the title is not full on from the development of the SRB rated. And EC is for early childhood, usually anywhere between 5 and early ages like 5. Then you have E for everyone, which is suitable for all ages. E10, which is more geared towards a 10+ audience, and T, which is more of a not extremely violent, but has some suggestive themes and some lower level things that make people the other way. Okay? Then you have Mature, obviously, which is more mature stuff, and AO. Now, the Punisher originally, when it came out, was an M title, but when it was first aimed to the SRB, it got rated as an AO title because of the violence. The SRB actually made them change different parts of it and gave it an M rating when it came out in retail. Now there's different types of submission. There's that short form, which is more for downloadable content and SPLA games, it's $500. Standard submission is $4,500. If you want it in 2 days, it's $7,250. Now the process of the submission is you fill out the form itself, you have to make a video select the different type of game that's going to come out as. Alright, now this is the addendum process. When you put a video into the ESRB, they might see different content that you can see. It'll come back to you, you'll have an area on the ESRB submissions site where you actually have to go into the addendum and update the different things that they saw. Different time points, and I can line that by time. 17.6 guidance hit by bar. Alright, now this is the actual submission approval. You'll see it comes down here, you'll get a file number, you have an actual official certificate number for the ESRB. It actually explains and tells you that your game has been approved. Now, when your game is in submission right now, you have this one on the left here, which is null. It basically means it's under submission right now, they're looking at it, and then once the game actually gets that submission form on the website, it will give you this, it will explain what's this, the content, and what the rating is. All right.
How did you get involved with the ESRB?
Well, I work for a publisher full time.
Okay.
We do EDS. I'm a product director. So once a game gets signed, I basically take over from everything that's other than art and I do everything.
Is it mandatory?
Okay, that's a good question. So with Apple, it's not mandatory, but the thing is that with the major consoles and the retailers, they will not carry a game unless the ESRB does it. And when we deal with Nintendo a lot. And Nintendo will not take your game into their testing until we get an ESRB. Because what it does is it goes into a thing called lot check where they test it and then it comes back out. And they won't actually test the game to make sure all the standards from Nintendo are there unless you have an ESRB rating. Now, Apple does not have anything ESRB rated because they choose just not to mess with the ESRB. But imagine the different amounts of people that make iPhone games. And a lot of people make iPhone and Android here. You need to pay $500 every time to get that on there. The amount of apps you skyrocket together. I don't know if you want to go and pay the $500 and what's that?
The last slide.
Yeah, that was actually that's a puzzle game that we did, and there's just a picture of him with a pipe in his mouth, and that's considered bad references.
Is there any plans for them to up the $100 level for PC games?
Well, that I don't know. There was one that was out. It was raised actually changed. Before it was $800 for a developer, it was under $250,000, and that started a few years ago. I don't know the details on it, but I guess people took advantage of it and they upped it off to that. And they changed the DLC stuff to its own solution itself.
Do you have Steam games you have any circuit?
I don't know actually. It's very weird because there's a weird line because of PC. Usually, if you're going to do a publisher, you're going to have to be an answer. I don't know if this ins and outs of that. I'm going to say probably not. If you're an independent guy, you're just putting it online because there is no one that does it. It's just a DLC. It's that logo, and there's not going to be actually a publisher or a retail shelf. You can get a look at that stuff. The internet is really there to regulate so that people that are buying into the retail spaces are more aware of what it is.
What kinds of counties do you get?
They kind of do a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing. Different things, like I've sent ESRB videos that have menus, I've sent back, and they're like, we need to be doing this again, that's X one. And you get like X amount of strikes through a certain time period once it goes off and everything like that. Also, they have a testing group that watches the videos, and then they also have a group that actually goes back into the game gets released, and then go back and they play the game because we don't want another hot call on this thing. Now that one is different. That was dead code that was in there. Some guy found on a PC version, but again, it's in there. Even if your code is dead, you still have to report that it's in there. And that's what happens with calling. Rockstar lost a lot of things. They recall those copies and put them stuff back out without it in there. So we got here just because of those sort of things and things that were, it happens to everybody. But once you understand the process and how it works, and then they are sticklers for everything. I mean, if you question it, you're ready.
I heard a filthy rumor that all of the people in the board are like over the age of 70. Can you prove me wrong?
That's completely incorrect. I know a lot of guys in the SRB, and they're really good guys. They're really down to earth, and they're doing their jobs. They actually have some really cool Shiragi E3, and this is a dice that has all 6 ratings on it. And this is actually how they rate the games. They go, it's a team in the name, another one has all the descriptors in there, right? And they're like, common vision, partial movement, suggestive
my name is Nathan Sullivan, and I'll just quickly introduce myself before we roll it. I guess to give some background credibility to it. It's kind of a strange idea, but my background is sort of specializing in that. About 2 years ago, I founded my company, Superfluid. Before that, I was in the business about 10 years, a bunch of electronics critique, where I headed business development, and my role was to watch new models, especially in digital distribution, and make sure we're doing stuff and have responses. So I rolled out the first AAA titles through digital distribution, did deals with carriers. I've done like special bizarre deals with hardware manufacturers that said, oh, platforms except for Nintendo, because they're oh, that's not big. And all the publishers. So, in really different sorts of scenarios. And I've also done like wireless deals and sort of thing in that role. I've done things like consult for GameFly for new business models, GameStop, a lot of stuff like that in the time since. And I worked with Greg Costikian on some of his efforts to encourage distribution of indie games and work on that sort of project. So this is an idea that I pitched out like 3 months ago. I sent some emails to people and I thought, well, I can just sit around and nothing's going to happen with this for a while because I have my own business and I was kind of getting really busy there too. But then they just took over my whole life, so I'll just start now. So, some people have said, Philadelphia is a great town for game development. Great town to be, great community for game development. A lot more should be happening. So, what more should be happening in Philadelphia? And what's keeping Philadelphia from being the more significant game? It's really like, it's got a really nice style of life. You look at Philadelphia, you can have a life, it's a lot easier to have your own place, you're not bundled up with a lot of other people. It's just a great place. And so lots of positives. And I don't think there are a lot of negatives either, but we're different from some other places. So some of you say, well, this is a great environment, we've got great tech resources created. We should bring in some AAA jobs. We should have like an environment. Let's get a big AAA dev shop into town. So let's do some things to attract that. And I know from my experience that it's really hard to get that from a cold start. You look at Montreal, they have like 5,000 game industry employees, really cheap education, a lot of education around like kind of just creating assets. Big tax breaks. And we're talking about doing some tax breaks here, that's nice. But those are going to be incremental. So we probably have less than 100 people in the games industry here. So if we did the tax break, it's still going to be an incremental game. It's not going to be 1,000 people, 2,000 people. So in any case, you look at what Montreal has. In fact, they end up having a lot of code markets. A lot of people like Sherman. So that 5,000, who's really eating stuff? It's a small group. Same like for graphics. It's not like a lot of people visual vision with great visions for how these games are. There's a lot of people helping support big projects. But in Philadelphia, we have a different sort of community. We have respect. And so I was looking at it. What does a big company like Electronic Arts say right now? Do they want to put money in a big AAA title? Well, they just put $1.2 billion, that sort of thing. So we have places like NextFab, and we have collaborative workspaces who are really good at grassroots setting. We also have universities that are kind of effectively challenged right into the game industry. So, like, when I take people in the game industry about this project that I'm going to mention a little bit, it seems like a third of the game industry went to Wharton and another third went to Drexel. Because everyone says, yeah, I come from Philadelphia, I was in Philadelphia, I know these people, and I know what's going on there, and I want to support it. So we got a lot of support toward an idea of doing something in Philadelphia in the games business. And it's not about, like, let's bring a AAA studio to town and, like, import a few hundred people who already are doing 3D graphic assets. And Joystick Labs has one idea. Joystick Labs has one idea down in Durham. They're really kind of a conventional incubator. They bring in a project, turn it around, and spit it out. But they're in Durham. No one's saying Durham name. It's not really a community. It's more a concept of getting something in, getting out. Yet in San Francisco, it's a little bit more interesting because at the core of things, they give a little bit more, they put a little bit more vacuum into it, and then again, spits it out. So these are little chunks because they're not about community. It's one of the ways things get developed in Philadelphia. The other day, Jason Dolorado wrote a post that I know everyone here probably read it, last week I sent you, about an indie incubator for Canada because like there are all these massive studios there, and he's like talking about how much money you have to give them to participate in indie games. And I had emails with, we talked about like how we had to bribe them and how much better it would be here when we don't have to bribe them to participate. A good model for actually a community is General Assembly in New York. It's not an incubator, it's ongoing. The most interesting tech startups in New York can be in that location. We're looking at doing something similar in Philadelphia, but just for games. So a dedicated location where we drive interest, where publishers and investors know to come as an end point, as a destination location for interesting games. On the business side, it's a 501c3, so nobody's making money out of it. So free to pay classes, driving some revenue, $200 per member eventually, but in the first year, just what people can afford, because very few people in Philadelphia are making money from games. And ongoing scholarships, so we're talking to people like Drexel about doing that, we'll have other places too. Already had conversations with a lot of people in the industry, and a lot of these resources are already being put toward this space. So in terms of how we build out this space, it's people who have a lot of experience and who are going to back this thing. We're talking to especially programs at Drexel and Penn, and we're bringing a lot. We're going collaboratively with some folks at Penn. We're going to be doing an event October 3rd related to gamification, which kills some people I know, but it's an aspect of it. So with the overall, what we want to do is we want to get people both from university and just kind of after university an opportunity to stay in Philadelphia before kind of going signing off to be, something sold to the devil and kind of working for a run job forever in some more game obvious location. So in terms of what I'm asking folks to do now, as we get these other pieces together, so then LOI and comics here, if anyone's interested in signing, and also to kind of spread the word about this thing. I was talking to someone actually at Blizzard, and he said earlier in the day, someone else out there had mentioned to him that there was this project going on in Philadelphia. So a lot of people in a lot of places already know about this guy. So I'd love to answer any questions.
Other than talking to you tonight, where is the best place to go to get more information about what you do?
What I'm doing right now is we'll have a 501c3 formalized this week, and then we'll formalize the board of directors for it. So we have a board of advisors that's probably going to end up being like a couple of dozen industry people, and the board of directors is about 7 people. So when we have the formalized, then we can get money into it, and also then I feel like there's more people than me talking. So in 2 weeks, we'll have something that will be out there. But I can give you a copy of the LOI. It kind of says, has a synopsis of what's there now and what we know will be true going forward.
How do you tie in funding? I mean, the funding, venture money.
Yeah, so we've had a few people, there's a few people and entities, including industry entities, that have said they're interested in doing that, but we can't do anything going forward. We can't get any checks till we form a 501c3. The main cost of this is going to be the space, but also we have availability of free space. So I'm hoping, and it seems realistic, that we'll be able to pay the full building immediately. It's kind of how long it will take to get in there, probably 3 months or something. If that doesn't work out, if we don't quite get that much, I'm certain we can get into a free space. It'll be a pretty interesting free space, but it's not exactly what we want, again, by the end of the year.
But I meant basically build an incubator. So
no, not an incubator.
I hear you. But if you look at the technology industry on the West Coast and other places, it's both putting a lot of people interested in the same kind of thing together and the money for funding what they do.
Well, there are a couple of things I said. Here's one thing I'd say is put an incubator on your mind. Because for one thing, I think it's a bad idea. I think what Joystick does is not a good idea, not helpful. And also, I think we're in a unique situation here, right? I'm not saying, oh, let's get some people in and say these are the very best ideas, teach them how to ask for money and then spit them out, which is an incubator model. It's like usually 3 months from this is get a lot of people in, get resources to it, get the industry to come in, get it supported so people know, so that the industry knows it's a place to see work, and then make and create a better base for independent development. So it's absolutely not, it's not going to give money to anybody. It's not going to give that money to people either, but people won't be paid to be there, but you'll have to pay very little to be there. I mean, part of the commitment we have that we're making is if people can't afford, and nobody's going to be able to afford a 200 a month member to start, we'll make it low, but there should be something so that people show up and it's not just like, oh yeah, there's this hangout that sometimes I show up for. It's like if $30 is all that you can really afford, then we're going to work to make it work.
I know this might be getting a little ahead, but how's the space zone? Is it like commercial space, industrial space, residential space?
The space that we'll get will probably be efficient because there are a few reasons. One is it's got enough really cool restaurants that when we get investors and industry people in, we can get them in for lunch, do something, and get them in for dinner so that they both kind of like feel it's a different sort of place than where they're from. And so that we want the people, participants to go out for a beer afterwards and everybody, and that's really the best place for it to happen. Also, I think we have a lot of participation from Drexel and Penn, and the thinking is let's get it off of their territory, so it's not like one or the other, and then also so that it's kind of city as a whole is part of it. But really, I mean, it just seems self-evident that if you want to do something where people are going to create a fish town, a good place, really cheap real estate, it's like $1 a square foot in the last mile, and it's like no place else compares with the availability.
Well, the reason why I ask is because as someone that already works in the space, you know, I'm looking at this as a place where I would want to move my offices, or I'm looking at this more of a game dev community center.
Well, how many developers do you have here?
I have
4. Yeah, I would say that we developed that you would want to move yours into the space. Yeah, so it's like, we're thinking like at least start with at least 12 teams of 2 to 6 people. For like to be into the space, because the space to be large enough to support that, and then to have flexibility to grow. Well, we should talk about that. I'm talking to the only platform that I've spoken, the only console support group that I've spoken to is somebody because I know them enough personally that we talk about that. And it's sort of look into the future, but they're doing some really interesting initiatives. One of the next calls will be Microsoft.
They're also giving out free video kits, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I mean, we'll support it. I'd like to have your input too. I'd like to have your input on this. I mean, one thing is, I think there are a limited number of groups doing development for console, but it should be that it should have the resources to support that as it's needed. So the question I have is, do we like advocate that for that now? Do we like advocate that for a fixed time from now?
I think you've got a lot of people doing different things. It's all about more than, I think, time constraints and where it's at anyway. I mean, we're based in Jersey, and you know, we're doing projects, other people are doing projects, other people are over here, other people are over there. I think it's more or less getting everybody to be like, oh wow, we're all done at the same time, and there's opportunities for everybody to kind of come together.
What do you mean, like done at the same time today?
Project-wise, I mean, I don't know if people are doing like console, I mean, console-based stuff is a little more, you know, intense for someone who does it, they're smaller teams too.
But I think what you said, like, so that way we can actually like help each other. We're all moving in the same direction, so we're all
like if you're running in every hour, like I'm in JDM, let's go, and he's over here, and I got my guys punching to get something done, and these guys in pre-production, and I want to use my guys, and I need them now because they're.
Well, so I guess my question, you're saying you like it to be so you're doing the same things at the same time?
Well, it's more that we're having easy communication. We would like 4 months here. I can't be emailing, you know, and I can see where everyone's at every week, but if we have to see each other at the coffee, we should get it. Makes it easier.
I think it makes sense, it's just a matter of
So, like, again, the more I understand, like, the more I know specific requirements that people have. So I talked to a bunch of people about what they want, and we have somebody who specifically, for one of the biggest publishers, arranges physical space for developers, who's going to help us to design the space and have layout. But it really is only important how people want to react and relate.
Are you looking to have like a handful of teams that are all under one label? Is that kind of
No, this is like totally, okay, so the idea of the space is, it's like General Assembly. General Assembly, what they did basically is they brought in the most interesting startups in New York, like tech startups, and they put them in the same space, so everyone knows, so it's great because they get to work with each other, and it's not like it's a 3-month program and all they're doing is looking to find a pitch when they get out. Basically, they're all kind of working together, bouncing ideas off each other. But just as important for them, the most important thing next to that is that investors know that's where to come and talk to everybody. So the secondary, so I mean, for here, the primary thing is the relationship between everybody, how it works, and how I want to move forward and learn more. And again, the secondary thing is that I want people to know, that this is for publishers know, you know, I can come here and I can see 12 things in development, 12 small projects in development. And the idea should be like, well, you know, someone could eat 10 of them, and it's still, oh, 2, wow.
So it's like an indie hub.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But you should talk about, I got some guy who talks to, like Fox Studios is a big guy that's out there too, because he's a rep that does 6 or 7 different people that are under him, so he went in and says,
oh, right. Yeah, I mean, and again, like, a lot of industry entities are going to participate, and the next things that I'm going to get, in writing, their level of involvement in writing, and I'll be able to speak kind of which entities are going to be doing what. I think it'll be elective.
I mean, I think you can also do if people can't physically go to fish hunt games, they can still be like, quote unquote, part of the.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
say we got these guys down in Jersey that are kicking
Oh, yeah.
ass. We got this guy up in North Jersey who's awesome too. We got these guys that are like down in Chester County.
Yeah, probably in like it. So like say you know something's gonna happen or someone's gonna visit, it should be that like people all come in too. And it's gotta be that, so I mean there are like a bunch of those interesting projects won't be because they already have space. A bunch of interesting projects already have space. So they're not gonna move, but it's not like they have to be included in this.
That's not the day to do crazy stuff.
One more question. You mentioned Montreal is tax rebate. I believe Boston has done the same thing.
Well, lots of places have. And here's what I would say about Philadelphia too. But and Pennsylvania. If Pennsylvania does the tax deal for Danville, that's fantastic. And that's really good for us. So I don't need to diminish that at all. I mean, like New Orleans, I co-founded a company for gaming technology in New Orleans a few years ago, just as they were getting their tax break set up. And now they're kind of reconfiguring it so that instead of being able to sell your tax rebate or whatever it is, you can just give it right back to the government and kind of get your $300,000 right there. And so they're super aggressive in Louisiana with the tax rebate stuff. And I don't think we're going to be able to be that aggressive. Whatever we can do is really good. Again, really good for this kind of initiative. And it doesn't matter for like the entity that this is, because 501c3s are in taxes for anyone participating. And then the other thing, like another side benefit that I emphasize is that a lot of the times pipeline is important. So if someone comes, sees you're developing a great title, and wants that, they probably want more from you. And if we're in a joint space, it's probably a lot easier for someone to create a pipeline where they can generate a lot more, a lot more stuff in a relationship fast. Because people will be working in closer proximity, know that they can count on and move forward.
Awesome. Thanks.
I missed the introductions. Here's some of you already. My name is Patrick Holloman. I run the website, the Game Design Forum, which, as you can imagine, is about game design. We're not quite about forums. I spend most of my time analyzing games when I'm working there. I also work a little bit with some of the IGDA members for Games Village, just starting out. Definitely ask about that. Cool. You do want to profile you and get your name out there. But this piece is just about just a sort of theory that I was advancing that needs to be, or hypothesis to be more exact. I want to create an experiment for that we can then test so we get some real data on that. Just a quick overview of what I'm talking about. The first question I asked myself was, why is it fun to level up? Now, there's a bunch of reasons for that that I'll go into with you. The acceleration flow hypothesis is my overall answer to why it's fun to level up. And then talk about an experimental design, test the video, and just shove it in. Why is it fun to level up? For one thing, it's permanent. You may forget how to do the fatalities in Mortal Kombat, your character will never forget these level 60. It's guaranteed. After level 59, he's level 60. You may never learn how to play piano, but he will. The good question though is, why is it fun to level up? Keep leveling up. Why is it fun to get to 85? Why is it fun to grind your farm all the way up? This doesn't seem to make any sense with the pattern that we know about music. It seems more like work than fun. My answer was that this comes out of, or actually go to the example from World of Warcraft. Many of you may have played it. The end game raids. You raid to get gear, which is a level up, and then you get gear to raid. You raid to get gear and get gear to raid. Where's the payoff? It seems so routine. There's no goal. Where's the fun? My answer. My answer was the acceleration of power. It's not a goal, it's a process. So as you get a piece of gear, you get more powerful. So the next piece of gear comes quicker because you're killing the same bosses. Your power increases, but the speed at which it goes up increases too. So you get a positive feedback loop that does what you see there, exponential acceleration. Now, you have to be able to accelerate your rate from something. This is what I call baseline rate, medium level progression rate. Which is they train you to expect 1 level a day, or 1 level an hour, or 1 level a week, depending on what game it is. But all they need to do is train you to expect some level. From there, once you get used to that level up rate, then they accelerate you away from it you experienced before. You're like, wow, I'm kicking this game's ass because we're backwards in a second. That's not bad. I'll figure a couple. Yeah. There we go. Sorry. that's the euphoria you feel when you been trained to accept one level a day and then you get above that. And then so when they sort of play with your mind, with the designer, that's when you really experience this euphoria. You're like, wow, I mastered this game, even though really it's just a level system in design so that you are supposed to feel like you mastered it, even though it's totally normal. Now, what I was talking about with the world graph is you see the straight line there is the MLPR, the baseline rate you're expecting. And then when they go to a grading situation, you start off, you're not gaining levels really fast, you're not gaining really quickly, but then you accelerate, and then you grade, accelerate, new grade, accelerate. This is the JRPG structure, where you have basically JRPG is divided into two climax structure where you have, you climax in the middle, like Chrono Trigger's Ocean Palace is a good example, where you seem to accelerate a little bit, and then, oh wait, it was the second half of the game, you go back to MLPR and accelerate again. This is the Diablo or Action RPG Fallout 3 where you accelerate right before, your level accelerates right before every turnover in difficulty, so right before Mega, right before Hell, you become this powerful god, and then back to square one again, so you have to accelerate all the way up. What I'm talking about when I'm talking about acceleration is not just the acceleration of level, but the acceleration of the reward you get, so money, faction, items, all of it. All of that, all you really want to know is how soon am I going to get my next power? How soon am I going to get powerful one more time? And this plugs into this ratio of reward and challenge. So reward is basically how much of my next level up do I get when I complete this task till it's monster. The ratio where the reward is good, the challenge is good, you start to feel acceleration. It's even bigger when you have reward over time. How fast it could be super hard, it could be super easy, but how fast are you getting the reward? When you start to have more reward per time, that's when you feel the effect of acceleration, because they train you to expect a static RT ratio, but what you get is a dynamic one that goes out. So just to jump into an experiment, we're going to do is use a StarCraft 2 mod to build an RPG, this has been done, that we'll then use some plugins there that will aggregate the data. This is the global leaderboard, which aggregates all kinds of player data from across players who are playing the map all over Battle.net. You pull it in, we mine the data, we plug it into experimental controls, and that tells us the things we need to know about the experiment, whether the hypothesis is true or not, or whether something else entirely different is true. To do this, we'll be building in accelerations. We'll be playing with RC, we'll be playing with RT, and a bunch of other stuff discussed in the paper, which is 10,000 words long, and doesn't fit well into that group, but and sort of just play with the players a little bit to see whether this works or not. You don't have to be a programmer to know how to do this, because it's all UI, it's like Dreamweaver. We probably need 3 to 5 map programmers, one artist to do a splash page, and I think our entire project will probably consist of 200 manpower hours to beat everybody, really not that much across the course of maybe a year. The goal is to create a framework for understanding this acceleration, this again, 10,000 word basis, but then to publish the results and trying to start a discussion with the community about leveling up and trying to really give the finger to Zynga because they're fucking solid, we don't even know it. They're doing that. This is the full paper, it's on my website at that address. I can write it down, but you can just go there to do it on the paper content. You can feel free to send me emails about this. I know it's a big topic, but I'm also on Twitter at IGDA, which is the way that most of my colleagues communicate with me. And so. Sorry, very fast, very good paper. I might need questions.
How do you think achievements have been affecting like the level stuff? Because a lot of achievements don't that as a reward rather than just the title itself.
Actually, interesting. One of the things I'm talking about in the paper is targeted acceleration. So one of the things about acceleration is you don't, when you're leveling up the MLPR, you don't realize how fast you could be going because you train to accept once an hour, one level of an hour or something. The achievement tells you that something more is possible. So you target it, so you're like, how do I get there? Well, I need to accelerate the rate at which I'm leveling. You do it, and that's a targeting acceleration, so you get there. And the achievement is the marker that tells you this is possible. That not all loss is the same. It is achievement.
I'm curious in what role you think competition plays in this. What you described so far seems very like one person thinking about themselves, but two people also.
Yes, competition plays a big role in that. It's sort of what I call the living trophy effect, which didn't make it in the presentation, is that when you accelerate, like one person, say 2 people are playing Diablo 2, which is really the classic example of acceleration. They really manipulated the hell out of it there. Two people are playing at the same MLPR, and one of them accelerates, the other one's like, how did you do that? And then, so it's a really impressive effect. So they sort of have the target of the under acceleration. Like, oh, I gotta do this because this guy knows how to play the game and I don't. So yeah, it does foster a lot of competition.
Kind of talking about how experience points equals your ability to have more power, and essentially that means to being able to do more things and have newer experiences within
the game. So how would you say, what do you think is a more powerful factor? I think they're kind of both important. The ability to just be more powerful because of getting monetary experience, or the ability to open up new areas and like bigger bosses that have a bigger scale and with more people involved.
I don't think there's any difference. I think that being more powerful and the ability to do more things are the same thing. I think that it's just as soon as you expand the game, expand your abilities, it's all the same relative to person playing.
What in your research of Lower did you find was the best implementation of the mechanic?
I would say that Diablo 2, the Diablo 1, and Diablo 3 are really good because they said you can never be too powerful. And they mean it. They have a bunch of random cables out of which you can get items that will initiate an acceleration out of nowhere. All of a sudden, you accelerate and then you level off. And so I think with Diablo, it's really the best because this Gaia series is also really good with this, although they use it in a very different, very structured way. But being able to have an acceleration at any time is exhilarating. Once you've gotten your first really great unique item in Diablo 2, like just a drop, and all of a sudden you become this demigod walking around the village like nobody does it. You're addicted. I mean, that's how they say it's happening. That's the most fun.
Yeah, that's okay. At the end of your presentation, what I've read is basically a call to do an experimentation. So is that something that you want to do?
Yes, it's something I absolutely want to do. I'm looking for partners to try and test this hypothesis out because the ultimate goal would be to publish a paper on it so that other designers can then look at this and go, oh, okay, because it's all based on what the classics have done. It's nothing new. I'm not proposing to do something new in game design. I'm proposing we explore and dissect something that existed for a very long time. And then maybe even create a plugin that goes into like some kind of game making software that allows you to just build an acceleration with two button clicks.
Could you, I didn't have time to get your full URL of the paper. Thanks.
Since you mentioned the Diablo 3 as well, how do you think the fact that you're going to be able to apply your
Well, it's going to destroy it. It's going to create something new. Something new is going to come out of that. Basically, although Zynga does this already, and that's why Blizzard is doing it, because Zynga does it all now. Zynga allows you, their experience curve, their MLPR, instead of going straight, it bends downward, which is the worst thing you can possibly do because players get increasingly bored. But what their bending backward does is it makes you want to buy things to be able to accelerate. So they're selling you the acceleration, and the acceleration in that case is very limited and very tall, so it depends on your ability to tell you to fall. But I find that disingenuous and unethical.
You said you buy acceleration. So I've actually seen literally things that heroes, or one of the things you buy is literally to get more experience.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, acceleration, people realize acceleration of power is so addictive. That's like any good drug, they'll sell you what they know what the game is.
Your goal is to find out why people are looking at games?
I want to get data that discover parameters about it. Where's the best time? Where's the best zone for acceleration? How fast off you go? How slow is too slow? When are you doing something that actually makes players burn out, etc. So just to find all of the little bumps in the road that the classics, we didn't see, like when they were testing Final Fantasy games and use this heavily, we didn't see the failed results that didn't work. So I want to find out and give to a lot of people all these things, like how do you get to the Google mean or all array of options.
You're looking for like the player experience.
Right. Just I want to see what jumps out of the data, because to my knowledge, I mean, Zynga has done it, but they did it for, evil. But they've done a lot of research on finding out sort of where the tolerances lie for people who want to experience acceleration at levels. And I want to make that public. I want to just do the Mozilla thing and say, this is for everyone. This is not a problem.
I saw the more challenge ratio thing. Did you reference flow at all?
And flow is a part of it. I think flow is like the synchronized flow can coexist very easily. Good action RPG will do that. Good ASX is a good example of that. But I think that those two things, while related, don't depend on one another.
One thing kind of abstract, but I kind of found that with these games, like especially with World of Warcraft and stuff like that, with the leveling up system, what makes it seem so addictive is seeing numbers flash up on the screen, and you get bigger numbers and stuff. Do you eventually see that people move on to other things other than numbers, or are we just like that attracted to seeing
My opinion is that the more obvious your acceleration is, the more the players will enjoy it. This guy does a really good job of this, and then they just lay their number there. And it's all there. You can do the math yourself. You can always figure out what you're going to do. And they just say, here it is, open source. Take a look at the gameplay, and this is what it is. And you know, you get your kick out of just getting those big numbers. I think it is possible. Actually, Katamari Damacy is not an RPG at all, but he's actually really level up system.
Right, yeah.
It's because you slowly gain power, and then all of a sudden you accelerate. You're picking up tornadoes and planets and things. So I don't think it needs numbers. But you know, there's not many Katamari Damacy out there, but there are a lot of ability games.
What do you think that basic meta style of game though, where the ceiling is always the same and your ability to gain any sort of acceleration is based entirely on movement, even after you get that movement, that ceiling you just kind of keep slamming into it constantly, right? Small conditional, it's like, oh, this doesn't can't move.
Yeah, I call that gating. That's in the paper too. I don't really have time to throw it in the same way. That's where and most MMOs employ gating, because if you were to keep accelerating, you could become so powerful that developers would never catch up to you. Or it would take them years to be like, well, we need to come up with a challenge for this guy, and you just can't because he was just too good at the game. And that's every MMO's dream. Like, oh, okay, I want to really build a thing out of water. But gating is employed in a lot of Zynga, a decent amount by Blizzard. There's also shaping where the RT and RC ratios are locked in place. Like Final Fantasy VIII is a good example. You only never level up without an ATP and the enemies level up with you. You'll never get more or less EXP unless you use some basically built-in hacks. They made it so that you can never accelerate unless they want you to. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing.
Are you looking in your research about reversal? You talked about like it's constant and it's expected, but let's say Diablo, like you can drop that awesome item you got, or even better example, Perfect World. If you die, you actually lose experience. Do you look at that at all and how that
Well, I think that certainly social games use this trend and just they take the fun away. They just give you the slightest sliver of fun and then try and get as much of it away as they can. That is the exact behavior of an addiction, of like the bad addiction that really that destroys your happiness. You're no longer having fun, you're just having need. And I find that to be completely unethical. But as far as Diablo goes, the random loot tables mean acceleration can happen anytime that they level. The big accelerations, like at level 30, you mean your really good abilities, and you get your first piece of drop from those inner pale, and you're just a demigod for a little while. They knew that was going to happen. That's why Nightmare is so much tougher than when you just play on normal. They open it so that the enemies accelerate past you to make your next acceleration fun as well.
So let's see, I just started with Virtual Dev and Quest 3D, a lot of visual programming systems back in the day. A couple years on, I started moving into why the industry, basically because the publishing is free. The Virtual Dev is charging you 20% of your fee to publish. It just doesn't work for a small person, one person team. So basically, it's a very crowded space. What we have here is there's a lot going on in these operating rooms. There's a lot of detail, and how you get the services from where the doctor's needed at a certain time. And then while you're doing this, there's a lot of other equipment you need to run around. So a lot of stuff is very modular, it's extensible, it can go anywhere from reaching 2 meters, 3 meters, articulates up and down, there's all kinds of things. So that said, there's a lot of options in this equipment. So you end up with a pretty expansive set of objects that you want to lay out in your room. So we built a level editor basically for the end user so that they can drag and drop stuff, save the layouts, save the images, animations, configure all the equipment, basically save to XML system so that it's very easy to edit, very easy to deal with. So most of this is done with the Unity asset post processors, setting up things in Max, a fair amount of Max scripts, and some setup here with prefabs and components. So there's tons of models. Most of them are just standard drag and drop models, and whether it's attached to the ceiling, whether it's attached to the wall, whether it's rotatable, if it's rotatable, how far it is. So a lot of it's set up in basically the big Max model. There's also configurable models, which we use to set up all kinds of stuff. What kind of length options are available for a certain arm hand system. This is just a simple code that's set up to let you configure in Max what kind of components you want on your models and on your prefabs. So that's to say you end up with quite a few different possible variations here. So this is basically all one manufacturer's variations of different bytes, different models, different moves. Everything's set up with full IGDA. It's adjustable, has its own limit systems left and right. There's right-click options to change the length of one thing or another, add different equipment on the booms, change the length of each one of the arms. So it's basically just a full runtime rig setup. Everything's just put together from the kit in 30 parts into tons of different sections. We also made a quick setup so that the end user can draw out any size shape operating room, convert walls to doors to headers to basically just set up different versions of rooms. So try to keep the look and feel as good as we could, but our target was really this pretty low-end laptop system, so we're running into a lot of draw issues. But we kind of see how that looks at the end. So in the end, we ended up making another option to export out from the Unity layout into just an OBJ format, send it back to us. We'll finish up renderings, we'll make animations for them, we'll do all kinds of stuff. So that was it. It's actually pretty easy. I mean, you can write out OBJ export, no problem. There's even free scripts online to do it. So a lot of it is really just making the system for the client to send the layouts to us. The layouts are basically just an XML file of the orientation and location of everything that we've seen, which we just recreate into basically rebuild the model and export out to OBJ, which brings it back to
So was this a from the ground up idea, or did you already have some technology that existed involved?
This was made from scratch, basically, in Unity.
So you didn't have any frameworks or anything else to go off and
built it from about 5 months.
Do you see any further uses, like interiors, decorating things in the future?
Yeah.
Are you bound up by the licensing agreement?
No, there's a lot of stuff. I work in an architecture firm, and this kind of came by accident, that sort of the user interface is really the killer, and as I'm sure anybody's actually used it and found, building a UI in Unity is But on the plus side, it's going for kind of a low technical end user, so we have to go as much, anything you click on does something. Anything you right click on does something. And that's kind of the overreaching of the theme to it, to make it as accessible as possible. So there's not that much user interface. There's some interface in terms of selecting initial equipment, viewing thumbnails of all different things that you end up with.
So, maybe you mentioned this at the beginning. Why? Was this a commission? You had a client?
Yes, it was a commission, actually. It was a commission for the manufacturer of the ceiling mount equipment. They had a problem in terms of explaining how this stuff works to a doctor. And the main problem is that you might take to talk to a doctor for about a minute throughout their day. So they had to be able to come in, show them straight up, this is our equipment, this is what we can reach, this is how it articulates, how it works. So they needed real-time solutions to it.
So you delivered, apparently. So what's the outcome?
The outcome is...
So does it work as expected or more? Or what's the user experience in other words? What feedback do you get?
Well, the user experience is really basically, it's a Salesforce sales tool. So they're using this to sell this equipment. That's really about it. But they're also using it to provide a service in terms of designing rooms and being able to show where some of the interferences are and work around these large pieces of equipment that are now coming in, like the giant hybrid rooms. They have like big, huge things that you need to work around with ceiling gutters, monitors and things like that. So there's a lot of constraints. So the problem really became is how do you show the constraints and how do you work around the constraints. So this was just more of a way to explain that visually and spatially. Basically spatial planning for not just a very busy space.
I understand your business reasons for the community. What were your technical reasons for the
Technical reasons? Well, my technical reasons really came down to the publishing, the multi-platform publishing, and also with the import pipeline, the fact that